Let's get it. What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, SchuZ Shoemaker. Welcome to the SchuZ Show. Joining me today is the man that boasts a 25-1 record with 9 KOs. He's currently the number 13 ranked junior lightweight in the WBO's division. He goes by the nickname Sharpshooter, and he has an upcoming fight on May 23rd for the WBC Silver Championship. That is Archie Sharp. Archie, appreciate your time to come on today, man.
Thanks for having me on. I much appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, first things first, I just said, you've got a big upcoming fight, May 23rd against Maxie Hughes. We're about 10 days out now from the fight. What's going through your mind?
Yeah, 10 days out. Looking very much forward to it. Obviously coming off the last fight, I just want to hurry up and get back in there.
Now, as you prepare for this fight, it's going to be a huge opportunity for you to obviously reboost your name, move to 135 officially now. When you talk about what you just want to accomplish, what the statement is that you want to send on May 23rd, how would you answer that?
So the thing is with me, I appreciate my last few fights and probably my career. No one's really seen the best Archie shot.
Okay.
And you hear a lot of people on social media saying a few things that I'm not ready for the big fights or I shouldn't be there. But I know how good I am. I know what I've done throughout my career and what I've got to show. So therefore, fighting someone like Maxie Hughes, who's been at world level, arguably beaten George Kambosos,
Yep.
I'll go and put on a big show against him, a dominating performance, which I believe I'll do. Then that chucks me straight back up in there for the big fights.
You had a move now where you've kind of been going back and forth between a couple of different weight classes now, but I'm pretty sure you now officially have made the jump now to 135 as officially this division you want to make at your new mark. What led to the decision? Why do you want to move to 135 now?
I should have done that a long time ago. I just
Okay.
kind of stayed there. The fights with Navarrete, Shakur Stevenson, all these big names were kind of dangling a carrot there. So I stayed at 130, highly ranked in the WBO, but never got my shot. I should have moved up good to possibly 3 years ago. And
Okay.
after the Ryan Garner fight, I personally believe I've got the ability and everything to beat Ryan Garner. But unfortunately, the weight just kind of took that too much out of me, you know? So I couldn't
Yeah.
perform at my best. So therefore, life works in mysterious ways. And I had to take a defeat to kind of make that decision to go up.
Well, we're going to get to more of that a little bit later, but I want to go back to the Maxie Hughes fight upcoming now. And you talk about this opportunity. You're going to be fighting inside an Eco Power Stadium. That's got to be a fun atmosphere to be a part of there. When you're in a stadium fight, in a situation where you get to go fight in front of great fans in a stadium, does that bring a little bit more excitement to the fight?
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, I'm going to his home ground. You know,
Right, yep.
I'm the away fighter. It's his backyard. He's the champion. So yeah, it's all against me. I know the bookies have got it all against me. But that just brings the underdog mentality, and that's what I need. That's what I've needed for a very long time. A fight where everyone's writing me off. I've done things correctly, and yeah, I'm looking forward to putting on a good show.
If you were to make a prediction 10 days out, what do you think is going to happen on May 23rd?
May 23rd is going to be a dominating performance from myself, and I'm going to showcase why I believe that I'm a world class fighter.
Absolutely, man. Well, I want to ask you to another aspect, and that's that you go by a sharpshooter. I got another backstory behind that. How that nickname come to be?
Yeah, I was as a pro. I think the local newspapers. 'Cause I was the babyface assassin through my career, and then I see in the paper about sharpshooting, so
Okay.
that stuck with me ever since.
Absolutely, man. Well, I want to get into your career a little bit because you've had quite the journey throughout your career. I want people to get to know your story and all. So we're gonna go all the way back to start this off, though. And that's talking about how you got into boxing. Was this the sport that you always loved? Did you always want to be a boxer? When did that come for you?
I was just a very energetic kid, you know.
Okay.
My dad took me to a local gym at the age of 7, and I've done all the sports: rugby, football, swimming,
Mm.
and then boxing is just a good way for me to channel my energy. And I ended up being half decent at it. From the age of 11, I started winning national titles back to back, and that's how I kind of stuck with it.
When did you start to realize that, you know what, boxing is not something I just like now, but I feel like I could actually have a really good career in boxing?
I think when I won my second national title, second
Okay.
or third national title, probably about 13, 14, in secondary school, everyone's asking me, the teachers, like, what do you want to do when you leave school? For me, it was like boxing was just solely my avenue. You know, I just want to be a professional boxer, be a world champion. So yeah, from that age, really.
If I were to tell the young Archie that you're going to have the career that you've had to this point, Would you have been shocked? Would this have been what you expected? Did you expect to do more than this? How would you have answered that? What would your reaction have been?
Yeah, been very shocked.
Okay.
Things haven't kind of planned out how I expect them to be.
Hmm.
But now in the long run, it's character built me completely different. I feel I'm in a good place now. I'm ready for these big fights, ready for the big nights. Whereas if you said, I feel like I've always had the ability. I feel like I've always been ready.
Sure.
But in hindsight, looking back now, when I was calling out for these big names, these big fights at the age of 24, I don't think probably mentally I was as ready. And also I've got a family, got 4 kids. I
Hmm.
had 4 kids by the age of 28. So yeah, so that was hard, trying to have all these young kids coming through, trying to do a career. Where now I'm at a good age. My youngest is finally sleeping, things like that, people don't see.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I've done it all. I wouldn't change anything. I wanted
Okay.
to be boxing for world titles at the age of 25. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't change it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm 30 now. I feel good for it. I feel a lot better for it. A 30-year-old Archie Sharp would beat a 25-year-old Archie Sharp.
All right. I love that answer because I wanted to go into some of this, but that 2020 and pretty much the past like 4 or 5 years have been an interesting stretch. Lots of ups and downs for yourself. But you said something interesting. You wouldn't change it. You think it grew you. It made you even a better person and fighter now. Why would you answer that? Why do you feel like that's what happened? That even though you had trials and tribulations, even though things didn't go as planned, you feel like it made you a better person?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's even with the loss with Ryan Garner, no one wants to lose.
Yep.
But I feel like I got a bit complacent. Wasn't doing
Mm,
things correctly. I was setting up businesses aside from boxing and kind
mm,
of putting boxing second when that's
okay.
never happened. And yeah, like yeah, COVID. I think as I was about to come back, I had a bad injury, a few political issues. So I was at. So I feel like I've been a pro for 10 years. I feel like I've had like four years kind of taken just with one
Sure.
fight here and there. But like I said, I wouldn't change it. It's built me, made me a stronger person, more mentally ready. And I don't feel like I've been gifted anything. I haven't just
Mm,
come in the pro ranks and had a fair few easy fights, built my career. Like it hasn't been like that for me. I had a really good run, come across a load of bumps and hurdles,
sure.
but it is what it is. We are where we are, and I feel good for it. And I've got that fire in the belly. I haven't had this for a very, very long time.
The boxing story has always been unique to me because I feel like you look at boxing as so much, you can relate it to so much about life. You're going to have ups and downs. You're going to get knocked down. You're going to have to get back up again. And you've been a living testimony of that, both inside and outside of the ring now. What would you say has been the biggest thing that you've learned from the past 3, 4 years, 5 years now of your life that's helped you and kind of taught you maybe inside, but also outside the ring?
Patience.
Okay.
I say patience because everybody wants yesterday. Like everyone
Mm,
wants to be 100 mile an hour all the time. So for myself, it's just patience and trust the timing, and
okay.
think things will happen. And for the good, right, you keep doing the correct things, keep conducting yourself correctly, and then things should work out.
I also want to go into a couple other aspects for you, and one of which is you had a viral moment against Diego Andrade. I have to ask about that situation. I know you know what I'm talking about there with when he went flying over your shoulder. So just because I know it's a very, very viral moment that you've had in your career, can you run us through that play real quick? What all went down in that moment?
Do you know what? He was a fighter who just kept pushing the pace. He was on me all the time, um,
Yep.
swinging. He was wild, and then we kept clashing. I'd cut the bad cuts, and I felt him on my shoulder, but I kind of stood up. I kind of stood, but he was still on there. So I thought I'll just go away through with it, and then that's what happened. And then he went over and tumbled, and next minute, it's a viral video with millions of views.
Did you expect that video to go as viral as it did?
No, definitely not.
Yeah, absolutely. I also want to ask you another thing because you have 9 KOs to your record, though. I feel like there's one that stands out more than the other ones, but I want to ask you this question specifically. What would you say has been your favorite KO in your career?
I'd say the Declan Gary
Yeah.
fight at the Royal Albert because such a great night, and obviously it was my first proper good knockout.
Yeah.
And the thing is as well, I know I punch a lot harder than what my record says.
Okay.
Um, but that was a perfect example because that wasn't really much about punching power. That was just
Agree.
more timing. That
Hmm.
was more just hitting on a sweet spot. So yeah, that was a good, memorable night.
Walk us through that moment a little bit more because you look at the situation. Obviously, the rounds, you were losing quite a few of those rounds leading up to that point, and then you put the cherry on top and it's all over. And there's no other sport other than boxing where you get that opportunity. You could be down multiple goals in football. You could be up multiple points in basketball. You can't just erase it by that, just that in a split second. You can do that in combat sports, though, and that's what you did that night. Walk us through just that moment and just the reaction you were able to have after that.
So it goes back probably about 6, 7, possibly 8 weeks before the fight when I had the phone call. I was in Spain. My manager calls me and says, Archie, we've got the Declan Garrity fight. I said, no problem. We'll knock him out with a left hook.
All right.
And for the whole camp, all I kept saying to my trainer is, I'm going to catch him with a left hook. It's going to be a left hook. We get in there, and then the first couple of rounds, like you say, I was losing 2-up till I caught him. And then I got a cut as well in the third round.
Yep.
And I remember my trainer saying, look, Arch, you need to close distance now. He's running away with it a little bit. Because all I had in my head was just landing a left hook, and I was looking for it way too much. And then obviously I found myself in a position where I kind of switched from orthodox to southpaw, and I just chopped it over. And then I put him on a sweet spot.
All right. Well, I want to go back into this past few years for yourself. And one of those aspects is that you had a lot of inactivity. Like you said, there's sometimes where you feel like you almost lost a year or two of your career during that time span. When you're a fighter, you want to stay active. You want to be in the ring. You like doing what you love doing. How difficult was that for you?
Very difficult.
Okay.
Like I say about the character building, there was times where I thought maybe I have to stop the boxing now, you know? Got a family, got a house, got bills. I find it difficult. So I was thinking I might have to get rid of the boxing and go and do something else. So it was very challenging, but I just stayed focused, read books, listened to a lot of podcasts, done a little bit of finding myself, you know, and stuck with it.
You said something very interesting there. You almost were considering going away from boxing. I'm not sure how many people know that story about you. So how close did that ever get? What point, what would you say was the closest time you ever got in your life to saying, you know what, maybe it's time to go a different path?
I think it was after, as it was coming out of COVID, I was due to fight on an undercard of Carl Frampton. And at this point, I was highly ranked in the WBO. Obviously, a good win there could have put me on to either fighting Carl or possibly Jamel Herring at the time.
Okay.
And as I was getting ready, a couple of weeks out, I was in the gym, broke my arm. And I just thought, well, obviously this ain't meant to be. You know, I've had 2 years out, bad injury, and the break come from something, just doing a bit of body sparring, which I've been doing since the age of sparring and body sparring since the age of 7. Yeah. And all of a sudden, there was a shot thrown. I kind of put my arm out, and it snapped my ulnar. And that shot's probably hit there millions of times, and a million times since, never had a problem. But at that time, I just thought, well, this is very unusual. Maybe someone's telling me that this is it. This is my longest run now with the boxing. But we got through it, got myself back in a gym, and then just kept punching away, and now we are where we are today.
What would you say was the biggest motivating factor that when you got to that point trying to make that decision that you said, you know what, I'm going to go back to boxing. This is what I'm meant for. I don't care the trials and tribulations. I'm going to go be great in the sport.
So I suppose it's the family, you know, the kids. If I just walked away, then it looked like I'm quitting. When I've got so much more to give to the sport. And what you're going to do when life gets hard, you're just going to spit your dummy out and walk away. So I kind of sat down, give myself a reality check and said, stop feeling sorry for myself. Just crack on with it, you know, it would all work out. And I dreamt as a kid to being a champion of the world and being the best as I can be in the sport of boxing at the weight. So therefore, if I just walked away there, I wouldn't give myself like the full chance. Where I think that's kind of the point. I just sat there, spoke to myself, had a little chat, and said, "Liven up, you know, got kids, got a family, and we will do it."
That goes back to the kind of how I said that boxing almost relates to the real world experience of people going through life, trials and tribulations. And like you said, you didn't want to give up. You wanted to continue pursuing your dream. And I feel like for so many people out there, whether they're athletes or not athletes, that's a situation a lot of people come across. Do you want to go just pursue and find money for yourself, or do you want to go and pursue your dream? You obviously chose pursuing your dream, and obviously the financial benefits have come along with that now. What would be your motivation, your inspiration to those that are going through those times in life? And you kind of say, you know what, just stay focused on the goal, stay consistent, it's going to work out.
Yeah, because if you look up a lot of like entrepreneurs or sportsmen or anyone who's kind of made it in life.
Sure.
When you listen to their story, they've all hit roads. Like they've all hit bad points. Nobody's had it easy. So yeah, you just got nothing easy nothing is easy in life, you know, anything good doesn't come easy. So it is
Right.
hard work and sacrifice and dedication. So you just got to keep pushing and it will happen. You know, you just got to have that mindset and that belief in yourself.
In the midst of this time period, you also added Roy Jones into your corner. That had to be a person that was huge for you to be able to listen to, learn from one of the all-time greats. How big was that for you?
Yeah, massive for me because growing up, when my dad took me to a local gym at the age of 7, they're the fighters that I watched, you know, the Sugar Ray Leonards, the Roy Jones
Okay.
Juniors. That's what I was studying as a kid. So having Roy beside me was unreal. And even though he's not working with me anymore, he's still a friend of mine. We still speak. He's just a very busy man, you know.
Yeah.
And it probably just didn't really work for myself. With going out there, and it just wasn't kind of it didn't really gel. But
Sure.
what I learned from him in a short period of time working together was very good, phenomenal, and very grateful. But like I say, we're still good friends, we still speak all the time.
Love that. What would you say is the biggest lesson he taught you?
I just watch the boxing different now, how
Mm.
I used to watch it. Like there's
Okay.
things now, certain things that I look at uh, that he told me about, which I wasn't really aware of. So
Okay.
that was interesting.
I also want to go into your previous fight against Ryan Gardner. You already said in the beginning of this interview that's a fight that you feel like the weight cut got impacted. You obviously had a lot of different dry spouts or whatever it was, and you obviously got to a point where you feel like you could have possibly won that fight if things were going the right way. But let's go into that fight a little bit deeper because obviously that was your very first career loss, and that's never easy per se. But when you reflect back on that loss, what's the biggest thing you learned from that loss?
Um, there's a few big points that I've learned, but
Okay.
it wasn't really so much what he done. It was from myself, you know.
Right.
Like the fight previous to that, I was on the canvas for the first time
Mm-hmm.
in the first round, which has never happened to me. I've sparred big punchers, been in the ring with big punchers, and that's never happened. So that happened, and then the Garner fight come, and I ended up getting beat. But there was things happening outside that I kind of was ignoring. And I
Mm-hmm.
should have picked it up on the fight where I went on the canvas back in May.
Mm-hmm.
But I never, I didn't listen, kind of a bit ignorant to the certain points that was happening. And then yeah, the Ghana fight come and I just realised I just can't keep turning up and relying on Billy always to get me through.
Okay. When you talk about that fight, is that a fight you would ever see in your career future that you would want to possibly rematch, or is that something you just kind of move on for and you're ready to go all in on a different path?
Yeah, so originally after the fight within the week, I sat with Frank Warren and I
Mm-hmm.
said, I want to kind of redeem that fight, the ASAP. It has to be before the end of the year because I can't make 130. Like if I do, if I make it again, it's only to have the rematch.
Mm-hmm.
And Frank was like, "Look, that can't happen. It won't happen with the time. You're best off just moving up. You're not the same fighter where I was at 130," which I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that's definitely a fight if it happens at lightweight, for sure.
So it would have to be Ryan Gardner moving up to 135. Then that's the only way it's going to happen. Then.
Yeah, I'll never be able to make 130 again. Like I say, I'm 10 days out now,
Mm-hmm.
and the weight where I am and where I'm sitting at, I can't believe that I'd have had to be in this weight or a little bit lighter starting the camp at 130, and I can't believe how I even done it.
How much do you feel like the weight drained you then? Because that's obviously a huge thing. I know that's obviously a big thing in boxing and combat sports. Getting the right weight class and whatnot. How much of an impact has that had on your career over the past few years?
I think quite a bit really. Like I said, I can punch for the weight. Even though I wasn't knocking everyone out and stopping everyone,
Sure.
even fighters have gone the distance I've had over. There was one in particular fight with Jordan McCorry. I had him hurt a few times, but my hands just hurt, so I couldn't get him out of there.
Mm.
I badly bruised my hands. So I know I can be strong for the weight, but I haven't shown that. And that was back in 2019. And then we
Okay.
had COVID. And then since then, I keep making that 130. And it took my power and it took the fitness because I train hard, always for all the camps. I train hard.
Mm-hmm.
But for the Ghana fight, after 4 or 5 rounds, my energy levels were just zapped out. And I didn't
Mm.
feel like I had my legs with me. and especially my style of fighting, being on the back foot, counter punching, in and out
Right.
of styles, you need obviously high fitness levels, and
Sure.
they were just zapped.
Therefore, knowing this is now the fact that you feel like you're going to be better at this weight class, is this going to be the best version of Archie Sharp that we've ever seen before on May 23rd?
I believe so. I
Okay.
believe so. I know everyone's writing me off, and they feel like I'm just coming here and it's all against me. Maxi Hughes going to walk through me, but I feel like this is my fight now.
Now, going forward, obviously, I don't want you to look past Maxi Hughes, but you look at 135 now, and I know, as you said already before, there is a guy that's going to have 135, a current champion that you've called out before. You've gone back and forth with him. That's Shakur Stevenson. Are there eyes on? Are you kind of having your mindset on? Okay, if I get this WBC silver, you know you're going to be positioned to possibly work your way up the world rankings again. Is that the fight you would want long term? Is that like the biggest fight you could possibly make that you would want at 135?
Yeah, just Shakur Stevenson, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fight I've been chasing for a long time. 130. I think more so because at the time everyone was saying, obviously this is a great fighter. He really is. He's a great
Right.
fighter. But a lot of fighters were avoiding him, and he was making it clear that no one wanted to box him. I was number one in the WBO, and I was saying, "Well, I'm here. I want to fight," but I
Mm-hmm.
kept getting overlooked and not getting the opportunity. So now I get myself highly back up in the 135 in the WBC now, and yeah, the Shakur fight is definitely on my radar.
I know that was, like you said, something that you guys were trying to make happen at 130 before. What exactly happened? Why that fight never come to fruition?
I'm not too sure. He was a WBO champion. I was number
Yeah.
one in WBO.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and I just never got the opportunity. I think number two was Valdez at the time. He got the shot.
Mm-hmm.
Navarrete was below me at one point as well. So yeah, just got overlooked and avoided.
Obviously, you'd have to win the WBC Silver Championship first on May 23rd, but how many more fights do you think you'd have to get to the Shakur Stevenson fight could possibly come to fruition? Do you see that being one or two fights? Have you even talked to Frank Warren about that yet, or what kind of game plan in that regards?
Yeah, I believe one or two fights.
Okay.
WBC Silver's a good belt. Puts you highly up there. So why
Right.
not have a final eliminator or jump straight in? It just all depends what's going on in and around the weight. But I know he's fighting Zepeda, so
Right.
depending what happens there, um, yeah, that's an interesting fight.
If that fight were to come to fruition, how do you see that playing out?
But with me and Shakur,
Right. Correct. Yep.
I think it'll be a great chess match. Now,
Mm-hmm.
my boxing ability is a lot better than what I've showcased
Okay.
in the pros. Like that's why I highly believe in myself because of what I've done over my career,
Mm.
behind the scenes. I've beaten some good fighters, some Olympians myself, And to do that, you need a good high level boxing IQ, and I feel like I've got that, and I know Shakur definitely has got that. So it'd just be a matter of being a very good chestnut.
Just kind of going a little bit off topic there, but obviously, like you said, Shakur and Zepeda are going to be fighting each other. How do you see that fight planning out on July 12th?
If you asked me before the Tevin Farmer fight, I would have
Mm-hmm.
said it'd have been a very, very hard night for Shakur, and Zepeda probably would have won.
Okay.
But after the two Tevin Farmer fights, I'm swaying more towards Shakur.
All right. Well, I want to also ask you, Archie, because we look at the next, let's say 12 to 18 months, 12, 20 months or so, a year and a half. What do you see in store for yourself? How many fights? What do you want to accomplish? If I were to talk to you again, like I said, in a year and a half, where do you possibly see yourself at that point in time?
Well, I wouldn't want a world title by then.
Okay.
At least by the end of this year, being talks for a world title. I need to beat Maxi in the next 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, just get myself. I want to be active. That's my main thing. Back in 2019, when I was active, I was climbing the rankings. And then
Yep.
since 2019, I've had one fight a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to be active, be in good fights. That's what I want.
So you're saying there's a good chance we're going to see Archie a little bit more often now?
Yeah, definitely. Now,
Love it.
now all that stuff's out of the way with. That's all in the past. We're here now. Beat Maxi Hughes next week. And then, yeah, just big fights moving forward.
Absolutely, man. Well, Archie, I have one final question for you. It's the question I like wrapping up every single interview with, and that's talking about your legacy. I know you have big plans coming up for the future now, but one day you'll put down the boxing gloves, move on from boxing. When that day comes, what is it that you want to be remembered for what you've accomplished both inside and outside of the ring?
Um, I would like to be known as about a bit of an inspiration to those who haven't had it easy and have to go the hard route. because I stayed disciplined, I stayed dedicated, I didn't go off the radar, I kind of just stuck with it, trust the process, and then become world champion. Become multiple weight world champion. That's the plan. So yeah, hopefully a bit of inspirational to those who have got to struggle or not just gifted these big fights and gifted all the money and titles. I've had to go through the hard way.
Kind of piggybacking off that real quick, like I know we talked about this before, but knowing that you have had to work for every single fight you've gone, had to work for every position, how much better does that make it now when you reflect back on your career to this point and kind of realize, you know what, I had to go through a lot of stuff. I wasn't just gifted it. How much better or sweeter does the reward taste now because of that?
A good friend said to me years ago, "You need bad times to appreciate the good times."
Yep.
I didn't really understand what he said, what he really meant. I was like, "No, I want to be with the good times. So I don't need no bad times."
Right.
But now I've been there, and when the good times really do come, then it just goes to show, and you can really appreciate it a lot more. And knowing that you've stayed with it and you've worked hard and you've blood, sweat, and tears into it, it makes you feel that much better.
Absolutely, man. Well, Archie, I appreciate you for taking time to come on today, man. It was a blessing getting to talk to you and have you on here, and best of luck on May 23rd.
I really appreciate the time. I thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Of course, you're always welcome on, man. God bless.
God bless you. Thank you.
Yep. I appreciate everybody for tuning into that interview. I'll have that clipped out and edited out and posted on my YouTube channel very, very shortly. I'm going to go on a quick commercial break, and then I'll see you guys right after the break for the rest of the show. See you guys later. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the SchuZ Show. I'm your host, SchuZ Shoemaker, and it's time to get into some boxing topics now in this portion of the show. Now, over the past 48 hours, we've had a couple different new rankings come out by the different commissions in boxing. One of which is the IBF. Conor Benn has now entered the IBF's latest super welterweight rankings at number 5. The ranking I'm not really going to care too much about. What I'm interested about, though, is the fact that Conor Benn's going in at 154. There's been a lot of discussion ever since the Chris Eubank fight. What's going to happen next? I still do believe that the rematch between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. is going to occur. I think that's going to be the route they're both going to take. But we always have to look at the fact that Conor Benn is still younger. He's still got a future ahead of him. Once the rematch is finished with Chris Eubank Jr., he's got a career to get back to in terms of building his legacy at a certain weight class. What we've been led on to believe was that 147, what has typically been his weight class, is going to be the one he's going to return to. And we've been discussing the Jerome Boots Ennis fight. At the time, it was Ryan Garcia. That's obviously off the table. Devin Haney, so on and so forth. But these rankings get interesting here. Because of the fact that he's now going in at 154, you have to think now. That must mean that he's going to be fighting at 154 when he returns. And that's going to be the weight class he goes after. And I've already said this before. I personally do believe that's between 154, also light heavyweight, that are kind of going back and forth in terms of the two most stacked weight classes in boxing. Adding Conor Benn in that group is exciting right there. You look at fights you could be making at 154. Virgil Ortiz comes to mind, especially the fact that I think Virgil Ortiz will be a world champion by that point. I don't think Bud Crawford will fight there. I've said that time and time again, but obviously Fendora's there. You have Bakr Mursavaliev in the mix there. You've got Jesus Ramos in the mix there. You've got a lot of guys that are Erickson Lubin has now positioned himself to be mandatory for Bakr Mursavaliev. You got a lot of guys in the mix at 154 where if you added in Conor Benn, 154 is looking really nice. At the same time, while I get it's confusing and Conor Benn should be ranked in one of the weight classes, having him be ranked number 5 at 154 when he hasn't really fought that for a while is a little bit odd, but it is what it is. Here's the other one I want to get into in terms of the rankings that stood out to me. Manny Pacquiao has re-entered the WBC welterweight rankings at number 5, and with the reports he's going to be challenging Mario Barrios for the WBC world title on July 19th. Here's what I'm going to say about this. I think that's an absolute disgrace. I think it's ridiculous. Manny Pacquiao is an all-time great. He is a legend. He's one of the best to ever do it, and there's nothing but respect that I have for him. At the same time, what I've said time and time again is that there's no business that Manny Pacquiao, 46 years old, who has not won a fight since 2019, should be fighting for a world championship. And then you add in the fact that he's now going to be ranked number 5. What evidence do you have surrounding that? His last fight, granted it was an exhibition fight, he looked atrocious in it. He's 46 years old now. He has not won a fight since 2019, and yet they're going to rank him at number 5? This is nothing against Manny Pacquiao. He's been an all-time great. He's one of the best to ever do, as I already alluded to and said. But at the end of the day, he has not won a fight since 2019. Whatever proof we do have of Manny Pacquiao is most recently done when we talk about his exhibition fight last year, and that was not a pretty showing. And so to throw him up there at number 5 is not necessary. And I get people are going to go out there and say it's a business. Yes, it is a business. I understand why you might want to do it. But at the end of the day, the rankings are not necessary for Manny Pacquiao. Those that want to watch that fight are going to watch it because of his name. His name carries the weight. You don't need the higher ranking just to make this fight happen. Therefore, pushing him into number 5 when all these other guys have been fighting for multiple years, building their resumes, getting himself into position, and he's just going to come out of nowhere and be ranked number 5 is ridiculous. Does he deserve it in terms of what he's accomplished? Sure, you could say that, but not right now. And I hate this because I love Manny Pacquiao. It's hard not to love him. He fights in exciting ways. He's one of the best to ever do. I don't like hating on Manny Pacquiao. But this entire situation, it starts and stems from the fact that people around him and himself are not being held accountable for wanting to come out of retirement at 46 years old when he's going to be entering the Hall of Fame in June. That's ridiculous. And on top of that, the fact that then we have to go give special treatment just because of the fact that it's Manny Pacquiao coming out of retirement. This fight should not even be sanctioned, and let alone be held to the standard where it's going to be for a world title. My only hope is that he makes it out okay and healthy. But what we're doing right now is not necessary. And it sucks because I hate being put in a position where we have to hate on Manny Pacquiao because he's an all-time great. But there's no other option I have with him to do just that. It's an absolute disgrace to see him doing what they're doing to him right now. He should not be fighting that fight. There should not be a world championship fight for him right now. He should be retired. He's already been retired. He's going to the Hall of Fame in June. He's going to be an active Hall of Famer fighting his fight for a world title in July. I'm not sure how many times if we've ever seen that before, but it's ridiculous. And people will go out and say, look at George Foreman. There's a big difference, folks, between George Foreman and Manny Pacquiao. Heavyweights can go a lot longer than other guys at other weight classes. That's been historically proven accurate time and time again. Now, Foreman's obviously an anomaly. Don't want to take anything away from him, but saying George Foreman did it and thinking that Manny Pacquiao can do the same is outlandish. And maybe he pulls off the upset. Who knows what's going to happen? I highly doubt that, but maybe he does. Regardless of what it is, it's not safe for him to be in the ring again because he's taken a lot more damage than anybody else has. He didn't take a massive layoff like George Foreman did in his career. Manny Pacquiao fought a brutal, brutal style in his career. He took a lot of damage in his career. And putting him back in the ring in 2025 is absolutely ridiculous. And then on top of that, for the WBC to then making him number 5 is an absolutely insane thing to do. That's my thoughts on that. Junto Nakatani wants to make the Inoue fight sooner rather than later. I love that from Junto. When you talk about Junto Nakatani in boxing as a whole, first of all, boxing as a whole, boxing is a business. These guys are in there to make money. There's no fight that's going to make more money for Junto Nakatani or Naoya Inoue other than fighting each other at the Tokyo Dome in Tokyo, Japan. I've said the time and time again. Is the Bam Rodriguez versus Junto fight a fight I'd love to see and probably the better fight to make possible? Absolutely. But would I want to see Junto Nakatani versus Inoue? Absolutely. You're going to sell out the Tokyo Dome. It's going to be a massive, massive fight. And that's the fight that I hope does happen. I said yesterday's show that Inoue has outlined his plan and Junto Nakatani is listed there. When that fight gets booked, that is probably going to be one of the biggest fights in boxing you can make. When you talk about pushing it into a certain market zone, it's probably the second biggest fight you can make. The 3 ones I'd say you can make in boxing right now that are mega fights: Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury at Wembley Stadium, Inoue versus Nakatani in Tokyo, Japan at the Tokyo Dome, and then Shakur Stevenson versus Tank Davis somewhere in America, whether that be the Barclays, that be MSG, that be at the Raider Stadium, that be in Dallas, that be wherever it is, having that fight go down. Those are the 3 biggest fights to make in boxing. Nakatani wants to fight. Inoue wants to fight. Hopefully we get Nakatani versus Inoue by 2026 at the early 2026 at the latest. The way I want to wrap up the show, though, is discussing the 135-pound lightweight division. I just had a new member of that division come on, Archie Sharp, and the winner of that Maxie Hughes versus Archie Sharp fight will obviously be in well position here. Just want to make sure I make those 2 names known. But I want to break down the 135-pound division because I said earlier 154 and light heavyweight are my 2 top divisions of boxing right now. 135 is quickly moving up those rankings, and I might even consider them to be 2 or 3 very, very shortly now. So let's break this down right now. As the champions, you currently have Vasily Lomachenko. You have his interim champion who just became Raymond Murataya, who I am very, very high on. Then you also have Tank Davis, Shakur Stevenson, Keyshawn Davis. That is an incredible champion run right there. Obviously, if you say Vasily Lomachenko is not going to be retired and he's going to come back and fight Raymond Murataya, you have a massive blockbuster fight to have happen right there. Lomachenko is an all-time great. He's a future Hall of Famer, so on and so forth. We know who he is. If he adds into more of this mix, it'd be great. I do think he will retire, though, but that means that you're just going to replace him. And I don't want to say replace him because it's massive shoes to fill. But Raymond Murataya is up next. Dominant performance on Saturday. He showed the world how special he can be, and I think he's going to be a problem at 135, where he should honestly, I think he's ready to go have the immediate, if he becomes a world champion, gets promoted to that, doing a unification fight with Keyshawn Davis right at the gate. I don't know if he's going to win that fight. That's way too early to say that prediction, but he is the real deal. I'm a big fan of Raymond Murataya after seeing the way he performed on Saturday. I think he's going to be legit. Then we talk about Tank Davis, Shakur Stevenson. 2 of the top 10 pound for pound, debatably top 10 pound for pound fighters in the world. We know who those guys are. Keyshawn Davis, in my opinion, is probably the biggest rising star in America. Why do I say that? Well, 1, he's young. 2, he's already a world champion, one of the youngest to ever do it. And 3rd, the way he fights, his charisma, his character, his personality, all of those things combined make him into a superstar personality. I also believe that he truly wants to fight the best. Don't really care to take a shot right now, but obviously we've seen a guy in Tank Davis who I don't think wants to fight the best. Is what it is. Keyshawn Davis has a lot of the similar traits in terms of personality and charisma and those type of things that Tank Davis has, but I think that Keyshawn Davis has more of that dog in him in the sense that he wants to fight the best. Obviously, yes, he's not going to go fight Shakur Stevenson, the best friends. Outside of that, though, I think he's an all fair game. He wants to fight whoever it is. And I also don't think that he's going to remain at 135 forever, but the fact that he is there, I have to mention him. So that's your champions currently. Big, big fans on those guys. Then we go to the top contenders in the weight class. William Zepeda, who I think is a very, very solid fighter. My one thing as William Zepeda is I think he's going to get destroyed by Shakur Stevenson on July 12th. That's my personal opinion there. However, Williams and Peter is certainly in the mix there. Isak Cruz is coming back down to 135. Pitbull is back. I think he's going to be an exciting fighter to add back into the mix. Floyd Schofield, another one of the young rising stars. Abdullah Mason, who I think is going to be one of the other futures of American boxing. He is sensational. He's special. I've gone on about him before. I think he's going to be the real deal. And so we have Abdullah Mason also in that mix. Andy Cruz, the guy that everybody wants Keyshawn Davis to have his fight against, who had a long-term, the revenge, losing to him in the amateur ranks. That's a guy to watch, keep an eye on. Now, he is older, but you start off him. Then you also get interesting guys right there, and guys in 130 that are now moving up to 135. Lamont Roach, we know that he's in the mix there. Obviously, he just had the draw against Tank Davis. Is 135 the pound weight class he's going to make his money at? I think so. 130 is very hard to make money at right now because it's not a big name fighter there. Emmanuel Navarrete is the biggest one, but he's not as marketable and does not bring in the money as per se, guys at 135 do, the likes of a Tank Davis, Lomachenko, those type of guys. So 135 is going to be much more lucrative for him, and he's already proven that he can fight that weight class. So I think Lamont Roach is certainly there, and I think he should stay at 135. So you have him in the mix now. And then there's somebody else I want to finish off with. And there's lots of other great guys, but there's one guy I want to finish off with. O'Shaquie Foster. Him and Shakur Stevenson are getting after it on X. A little bit too much in my opinion. It's getting a little bit crazy for the things that they're claiming and talking about each other in the ways that they are doing right now without a fight booked. But that being said, that's a fight I'd like to see. O'Shaquie Foster is a good fighter, but once again, 130 just is not a weight class that has a lot of money and a lot of eyes on it right now. You move it up to 135, you get all the eyes on you. And O'Shaquie Foster is one heck of a fighter. I think Shakur Stevenson has his way with O'Shaquie Foster if they do that fight. But at the same time, I'm not going to rule O'Shaquie Foster out. And you have to think about the way O'Shaquie Foster is thinking in the back of his mind right now. He just saw a guy that nobody thought had a shot at beating or even competing with Tank Davis and Lamont Roach. Move to 135 and get a draw against Tank Davis. And debatably even won that fight. O'Shaquie Foster probably in the back of his mind is saying, you know what? I think I'm actually better than Lamont Roach. And I think I can go take on Shakur Stevenson, though. Don't mind him for that. I actually respect that from him. And so I do think that that's a fight we're going to see. Obviously, Shakur Stevenson has already got his fight booked with Zepeda. And after that, I'm sure he's going to pursue the Tank Davis fight as he's done time and time again. If that fight and when that fight does not come to fruition, I think O'Shaquie Foster is the guy to have happen there. It makes a ton of sense. O'Shaquie Foster is ready to move up to 135. They already have been building that fight now. Make that fight happen. But the point being, O'Shaquie Foster being added into the 135 division would probably push the beams a little bit to the point where I'd say, you know what? I do believe that at 135, they might just be the best, if not the second best weight class in all boxing. Lightweight division is popping off right now. With that being said, though, I appreciate each and every one single one of you guys for tuning in to today's show. I'm going to get different clips posted up on my YouTube channel very shortly. Hope you guys have a great and a blessed rest of you guys Tuesday. I will see you guys back here tomorrow. There may or may not be an interview or guest coming on tomorrow, but either way, I'll be on the air, and I'll let you guys know when I go on the air. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. May God bless you guys all. Have a great rest of your guys this Tuesday, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. SchuZ is out.